Mr. Bantia, Mr. Mathur, Mr. Malhotra, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think the drums and the bands and the tablas are all here, and all of you are waiting to listen to Indian Ocean, which will be far more fascinating than listening to me. And I think all of you are looking forward to a great musical evening. So let me be brief and succinct on this. I think, to my mind, the key challenge is that India is going to urbanize very rapidly. Whether we like it or not, we are going to see almost 300 million people move into the process of urbanization by 2030. If you go by the latest McKinsey study, by 2050 you will see about 700 million Indians getting into the process of urbanization. And as I speak here today, every minute there are 30 Indians moving from rural areas to urban areas, and this is inevitable. And therefore, it's important that whatever we do, we should not allow the kind of unplanned urbanization that is taking place in India. We should go in for very planned urbanization. Cities actually account for just 3% of the earth landmass. They account for almost 80% of the global GDP today. They house almost 60% of the world's population, but they're also responsible for almost 80% of the CO2 emissions in the world. When America and Europe were urbanizing, land, gas, and water were all very, very cheaply available. And therefore, they could make sprawling cities. You could live in New Jersey, travel to New York, guzzle gas, have limousines of all kinds, which they still have. And they could create cities like Atlanta, where 98.2% of the people travel by cars. So America had the luxury of creating the most polluting cities in the world. And actually, 10% of the richest Indians pollute less than the 10% of the poorest Americans even today. So it's important to not make the kind of mistakes which the Americans have done. The Chinese have already made those mistakes, created sprawling cities, and my belief is that the process of urbanization has ended across America, it's ended across Europe, it's nearing its completion in China, but the process has just begun in India. And we are going to do a lot of construction, we will see a lot of more urbanization. We will actually do more urbanization in the next 5 to 6 decades than what we have done in the last 5,000 years. And therefore, it's very important that India charts out its own path of very, very innovative, very sustainable urbanization. And it does urbanization which becomes a model for the rest of the world. And my belief is that the future of urbanization and better livability lies in very compact, very dense urbanization, but on the back of very good public transportation. The American cities were made for cars and not for people. Actually, the Americans their car companies bought over the railway companies and destroyed them so that cars could sell. But in Indian context, it's very important that as we embark on this path of smart cities, as we embark on this path of these new corridors where new urbanization will take place, we need to embed our cities with very good public transportation. We need to recycle our waste. We need to recycle our water. Because in India, 85% of our water, 84% of our water actually goes for irrigation purposes, but just 12% for industry and 4% for human consumption. And because you don't price water and you give electricity free, we are increasingly turning Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Punjab into deserts. We've allowed our farmers, because of giving free electricity and free water, to keep digging down and down and down and not bother about aquifers. And actually, they've started digging out poison today. So the level of poison is spreading amongst the people of Punjab. And it's important to highlight this because unless and until we don't care, sustainability is about caring for future generations. And in Norway, whatever they are digging out oil, is actually they're putting into a fund which goes in for future generations. Not a single paisa of it is used for the present generation. But we are ruining not only our own generation, but we are ruining our future generations. And therefore, to my mind, one of the biggest challenges India will face will be the challenge of water. And how do we manage it will be one of the biggest challenges. And to my mind, it's very important that we create the sense of awareness that we are finishing our water for future generations. And there are several challenges on this. It's a whole subject of discussion on the management of water. But as far as sustainability is concerned, India is fully committed to the Sustainable Development Goals. India is committed to its various commitments that we have made in Paris. We've taken a vast number of measures in India relating to this. We've launched this program of 100 smart cities. We've focused on 175 gigawatts for solar energy. This is a very, very huge, ambitious program. No country in the world has ever done this. No country in the world has planned for 100 smart cities. No country in the world has planned for 50 metros. So this is, no country has done the kind of LED procurement which India has done. I mean, these are mammoth programs. We need to sustain them. We need to grow them. We need to expand them. And this cannot be the responsibility of just government. And my view is that all these commitments, at the end of the day, is not just about government making commitments. It's not just about creating smart cities, but you can't have smart cities till you don't have smart people. And at the end of the day, unless and until it doesn't become a part of our humans, of our inner self, of a part of our inner living or inner being, it will be very difficult for India to achieve sustainable development goals or to achieve its commitment for at the Paris summit, unless and until each individual doesn't become a very active participant and player in this. And I think we need to, for doing that, we need to start at a very young age for looking at the planet, and that requires us to really restructure our education and health system. The biggest radical restructuring that we need is our process of education and health. You can't make India a sustainable nation till you don't restructure your education, health, and your nutrition system. We can keep talking about 9%, 10% growth. We can talk about a quantum jump from 7.5 to 10%. But let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, you can allow any kind of FDI to flow in, you can do any kind of liberalization, but it will not be possible with a population of 1 billion plus, where you have social demographics. India is also passing through this window of demographic transition where 72% of your population is below the age of 32. You can't have sustainability if you continue to produce 39% of your children as stunted children. So you need to focus on nutrition. You can't have a sustainable development goals being achieved if you have a class 5 student who's not able to read and write his mother tongue of class 2. And that's happening to almost 40% of in our schools. And therefore, it's very important that we restructure our education system, we restructure our health system, and we focus very strongly on our nutrition. That alone will enable India to become a very sustainable nation. And that alone will enable India to achieve a quantum jump towards achieving its sustainable development goals. And I entirely agree with Mr. Jayant Bhantia that this is about good governance becoming good politics. At the end of the day, it's about good governance becoming good politics, and at the end of the day, it's about this good politics really delivering on ground, and that's a function of each one of us performing our role and making sustainable development goals as a very inner part of our living being. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.